Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity. Hosted by three Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and Conversation. For 15 years, Colorado-based photographer Heidi Wagner has used her camera to look closely at extraordinary people of all ages. Since 2011, Wagner has made the Passions Project the central focus of her creative work. Through the Passions Project, you get a new view of aging and the importance of living life with passion and purpose.
Well, welcome everybody. Glad to have you here, ladies. Danielle, Teresa, you look well. Good to be back with you. I'm excited about today. See, I love artists and creativity. And Heidi Wagner, we're just meeting for the first time, but I have so admired her work. It's beautiful, of course. The European pictures, but particularly the pictures of people and older adults in particular. And they're beautifully done, very artistic, but there's a story with them. There's a story with everyone that, someone might fill it in a different way, but everyone tells a story for me. And it's a story of positivity. But I'll let Heidi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to let you tell, more than between the lines today.
Thank you, Roger. It is so great to be here and to be here with all of you. It's such an honor. I mean, I've worked with you in the past and worked with different parts of your organization in the past, but it's just always so fun to sit down and talk about, the fight against ageism. I think that's really from the very beginning, that's what the Passions Project has been all about, is changing the paradigm of aging and, one photo at a time and one story at a time. And so over the years, that's just what we've been trying to do with the Passions Project, is create conversation about, the amazing and importance of storytelling and telling the stories of older adults.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my first question. I think you summed it up. But what started you? What got you on this path, Heidi?
I was working at a retirement community in Boulder, Fraser, and I was getting back into my photography. I was doing a lot of traveling, and, those are the pictures that you've seen on my website as well, with the travel photography that I was doing. But I was really wanting to get connected to my favorite part of my work, which was the residents and the people that I would work with every day. And when I would talk to people about working at a retirement community, one of their first reactions was very negative and not my experience whatsoever. So recognizing right away that people aren't completely connected and understanding what older adults are all about. So I wanted to create a portrait series that helped people understand the existence and the everyday life of an older adult. And by doing that, I was really inspired every day by the residents at Fraser and all of the amazing things they did. So I just said, well, I'm going to do a project about all of their passions. And that's really how the Passions Project started. It was just people volunteering to have their picture taken about their passion.
Well, you do more than that. In my mind, you exalt them, you exalt humanity. You're very successful at it.
Thank you.
You get sympathy, don't you, Heidi? I worked in a retirement community too, and you tell people that and they go, oh, you're such an angel. And you're going, wait, no, you don't understand how much fun I have. Like, I laugh every day and I laugh hysterically twice a week. There's no sense of the fun of it. Was that your experience too?
Yeah. And also the reciprocation. I think, I think that's the part that gets lost too. It's like, it's that piece of like, oh, you're giving part of yourself, but it's what we get back also. And I think anytime you're working with people and you're looking at people and sharing compassion and joy and everyday living with people, I think it's the best part about it is the reciprocation and it's not a one-way street ever.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Heidi, do you consider yourself an artist or an activist or both?
Well, I think in the beginning I would just say I'm an artist, and then I realized that really I'm an art activist. Most definitely. I mean, that's really the greater mission of the work is to make sure that we are changing the conversation about what living and aging looks like in our world.
And they're so fun and emotional. I love, you had one of a musician, and then there was another lady, I think she was cooking, and just going through them. And Roger mentioned the story. We make up these stories around them, and you almost feel like, kind of like I said about you, Heidi, we've never met, but I feel like I know you. I feel like I know some of these people in your photographs just from looking at them.
And I think it's so fun when people have that experience when they're seeing a still photo, because you don't always know the whole story, but you want to have a conversation. And that's always what I say. I just said, I want people to see the photos and then want to have a conversation with that person. And because I think we forget how much we have in common more than that we have differences. We always like to see our differences, but when we can show people and that we have more in common, I think that's so much of what the photos are doing also.
That's where we're all headed, let's think of it in positive terms. And you definitely show that. And I'm already there, but some people, I want to get old, like in the blue zones, right? You ask someone how old they are and they'll lie to you and say they're older for other reasons. But that's just marvelous.
I asked one of the residents at the retirement community that I worked at once, I said, Ben, how old are you now? And he said, in 18 months, I'll be 100. That was his answer. And I loved it. Who talks like that? It was so good.
It's that looking forward to life. I mean, I don't think about it necessarily as I want people to enjoy aging. I want people to enjoy the process of getting older and what that means. But mostly it's about, I want everyone to embrace living. And because, it's like every day we're living life. And when you're embracing that living, then you're positive every day, and you're naturally positively aging also. And I think there's just such a misconception about aging and the power of aging and the power of individuals as they age. I think we diminish that. Like, I just think they're just words. Language is powerful, and I think certain words don't get associated with older adults, like beautiful, stunning, powerful, courage and courageous and strength. I mean, there's just those kinds of words aren't necessarily in our culture typically used when we think about older adults or aging. And I want to change that. And I want to change that with photography and storytelling and every element that we can to change that element of our culture, for sure.
I think we saw it during this pandemic. The older adults have been through so much, maybe not a pandemic, but they certainly have been through, tested as a society, as humans. And, I can't say they all did well, especially those who got isolated and needed people. But in general, they said, okay, here's life throwing me another big curveball. This is a big one, but, we'll get through it. And I think they, as has been the case since most of our history as humans, the older adults with their wisdom and experience say, okay, this is bad, but, we can get through this,
And I think we all struggled during the pandemic. I think we focus so much on older adults or younger kids. We like to focus on certain groups, but I think as a world, we all had our struggles. This was not an easy pandemic or easy situation to be thinking about. It is a pandemic, but we like to focus on the struggles of older adults. Or I think the pandemic really pointed out our how ageist we all really are.
You would like this. I use the term frequently that the pandemic acted as a lens for us.
And what's funny, when you talk about older adults, research has shown that they have been the most optimistic and the most resilient out of any age group because they have been through so much. Where we're freaking out, they're rolling with it better than anybody.
That's the kind of statistics that do not get enough publicity, enough focus. Like I said, we wanted to focus the the negative lens and showing, older adults as, as struggling and part of the problem, or people that need to be sacrificed during this pandemic. And, there's so much misconceptions. And I think that's all just because of ageism.
Absolutely. It's so prevalent in our society. And I think it's silly to think that any one of us is immune to the effects of the society that we've grown up in, right? And so I think such a great question is not if I personally am ageist, but how? Like, in what ways is that showing up for me? It's a better question. I think it's better to assume that we all are, and we certainly see blatant examples of it, pandemic or not, in our society, but I think it's true for all of us. Tell me what you think about that, Heidi.
I think that's a great way to frame that question, because I think just in the same way that it's not possible for us to say we're not racist, I don't think it's possible for us to say we're not ageist, because we've all grown up in the same culture. We've all received the same messages. I catch myself every day thinking about and wondering about aging or what aging looks like. And I have to catch myself, because it's like, we're not trained and we've not been brought up to think that aging is a positive thing. Aging is something that we've been taught that aging is something we should fear, not something we should celebrate.
And, I think the messaging now is getting out there finally. It was so interesting. I have an example. I was on Twitter and I kept seeing this pop-up ad, and I'm not going to mention the company, but they were talking about, lotion for your aging skin and anti-aging and look younger. And before I had the chance to send them a polite, this is not cool message, apparently other people did, because the whole campaign changed within a week. And now it's hydrate your skin, have healthy skin. And I'm like, that whole aging message. So they must have gotten slammed. So keep it up, because it's working.
Keep it up, indeed. It was well said. So I said that I get stories from these photos. How about a real life story? Can you recall one or two for us? I'm sure there's some that stick out for you, that were particularly moving for you, or colorful, or whatever. Could you share a couple of those, maybe?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Every picture has a million stories. And one of my favorite stories to talk about, one of the people that I photographed, it was in Texas, and he had lived his whole life as a performer in LA, and he was a singer. He was part of a doo-wop group called the Rivingtons, and now he was older. He moved back to be closer to family in Texas, but nobody knew that he had lived this life where he sung on stage and was on TV. And so he became part of the Passions Project, and he came out in his red tuxedo that he would wear when he performed, in top hat. And we brought him to a stage at our local high school, and they put the music of the Rivingtons over the PA system. And he just came alive with the music and started singing. And, when you're in a doo-wop group, you kind of have synchronized movements with your other singers. And so the song, one of their famous songs is "The Bird's the Word," is the Rivingtons sing that song. And so he just kept saying, "The bird's the word, the bird's the word." And he had such a great smile on his face. And then a couple months later, I go back to Texas. We do the opening for the Passions Project, and I see Mr. John Harris, and I say, "Mr. Harris, what did you think about your picture?" And he said, "Thanks for making me famous again." And I will never forget that he said that, because to me, that just said so much, thank you for helping me be seen again.
That's perfect. Oh, yes. Right on. Wow. That's a superb story. Really. Treasure that one.
Talk about a paycheck, Heidi, right? There's your paycheck right there.
Really. I mean, and honestly, I mean, I will never forget Mr. Harris and that experience with him, because, in that moment, that's when you go, this is why I do this work. This is why I love this work. This is, again, that's the reciprocation. It's not just that I took this picture, but it's like what he gave to me, but what we gave each other in that moment was really special, and I will never forget it. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I have I took pictures of these baseball guys in Chicago. Like one was a Cubs fan and one was a Sox fan. And, they have like their North Sider, South Sider, and they're best friends, these two guys that lived in a retirement community, and just the ribbing they gave each other about their teams and, and just seeing, friends loving their sports teams. And I took pictures of this woman in Madison, Wisconsin. She's a yoga instructor, just incredible. I think at the time I took her picture, she was 89 and she would do an inversion. She just was incredible person and so thoughtful, such a beautiful soul. And I think people who are connected to their passion are really special people. And so that's why also it's not just about older adults connecting to their passion or talking about their passions. It's the Passions Project's meant that older adults are teaching us all about what it means to be connected to our passion and the importance of that. Because I think sometimes we get lost in our worlds, whether it's raising kids or working, and we forget like what's really important is having a passion and living your passion. And that's what makes life sweet.
And I love the yoga example. I taught yoga for a number of years, and one of my first classes was working with older adults. And my first lesson in ageism, I'm trying to be careful so nobody gets hurt. And I start talking about an inversion, and she's there, 93-year-old in a shoulder stand. And after the panic wore off, I'm like, oh, okay, she's fine. It's good.
Yes. We kind of have that, we forget. We confuse that, old ableism and ageism go hand in hand. And that idea that people lose their abilities and we underestimate people. We need to give people an opportunity to really show us who they are. And that's the beauty of people.
Definitely an activist, Danielle. a compassionate and very articulate spokesperson and an activist. Well, it just, this whole thing, you guys are all young. You're probably not experiencing it yet, but, there comes a time when you're not seen and you become invisible in our society. And I think that experience that your musician had there was, and what he said, that spoke volumes to me. And so there you are. You're a microphone for these people, or a vision for them. Now that's got to be rewarding for you.
Giving people a platform to teach and to be a catalyst for change, it is rewarding, and it's something that I'd like to see have a bigger voice as well. I know there's a lot of different issues that our culture is facing, our society is facing. And, through it all, ageism is, it doesn't discriminate either. Everybody is aging regardless, and whether we like it or not. And so we don't think about it, usually through like those middle 30s, middle 20s, we kind of get away from it a little bit more, and we start feeling it maybe a little bit more later. We feel a little bit more when we're younger, early. But I think it's a voice that not a lot of people are listening to, and that we're more willing to attach ourselves to the negativity more than finding ways that we don't have to be that if we don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are changing that, Heidi, like, as you said, one story at a time, one photograph at a time. And just one story you shared today was so, so powerful. And I know that's one of probably thousands. So tell us, Heidi, what's next for the Passions Project?
Well, once I did actually just receive my first vaccine. So I'm really pleased with that, because I've been limited in the amount of work I've been able to do directly with older adults. But I've been trying to make the best of that time too by starting a coalition, trying to get a national campaign to fight ageism during this pandemic time, getting different groups of people together, mostly people that are living in Colorado but have national ties. So just really, really working hard, and Leading Age has been a great supporter as well, to, help us connect to the right people to try to get some sort of national campaign out there. So that's a big push for us right now. And I'm really, really excited about it because, as much as the, creative aging and the aging community and aging services community are familiar with ageism, our culture at large is still really needing positive imagery and education through positive imagery. And that's so much of what this movement wants to create. And we are really excited about that. And I just can't wait for that to start happening because I see big things. I see conversations happening on the Ellen show. I see conversations about pictures that we're seeing on the screens in Times Square. It's like, I see the Passions Project, in those ways. And I see them on billboards around the country that we're talking about ageism. And I think that's my big vision. And then of course I want the Passions Project to be international. So, just some small goals.
We see it too, Heidi, and I think it very well should be. And if anyone appreciates art or the message, such a fantastic message applies to us all, they will be. And you're running with it. And if we can do any downfield blocking for you in this podcast or with Masterpiece, we're there for you. We will do that. And because we want you to keep running with this. You're doing fantastic work.
Thank you. I will definitely keep you in mind as I start getting through the line and making my way downfield.
So I feel like there should be one word for an artist who's an activist, right? There should be just one like artivist or something. I don't know, Heidi, but you could coin that, coin some term, because there's got to be more of you who are artists and activists.
Most definitely. There's a lot of people. I don't think that, I think in many ways with art, I think for many people, it's such a deep expression of self and our world around us that there is a lot of people use their art as being and creating activist work. So, I just think about so many different organizations and different artists that, their work is very reflective of an issue or something that's really deeply important to them.
Before you go, you do color and black and white, but you do a lot of black and white. It's very powerful. How would you not defend? Why would you say that you use that or choose to use it in this particular photo or whatever?
Usually it's so much the environment and the mood or the message that I see kind of in the photo. And sometimes I feel like color is distracting. It distracts from the actual passion or message or feeling. And so I think black and white really simplifies things visually for people and can really get people to the heart of a message or the feeling of the photo. And sometimes I think color isn't distracting and it accentuates the message. So it's really about like, what is it that we're trying to see? And what are we trying to show? So I personally, I do have a lot of work in black and white. I love black and white. And I specifically love portraiture in black and white, although I do see the positive effects of color too. So I haven't closed it down as far as, not doing, the very first project I did, I shot in black and white. Like I did not shoot in color. So I was like, I specifically want this to be a black and white portrait series. And over the years I've opened it up and I shoot in color and then we'll go between black and white and color. But I think, so I've loosened up a little bit, but I definitely, when I first started, my vision was, it's like black and white portraiture is, I think, stunning. And I wanted that to be the message too, but
mission accomplished.
You grow, you change, you adapt, that's part of being an artist too.
And great question and such an interesting answer. Yeah.
And Teresa, I think it should be active art. Hashtag active art or something like
Active art.
But you put it as one word. Anyway.
Heidi, here's a question for you. My own experience going to residence apartments and retirement communities, very often you will see they will have pictures of themselves from 20 years ago. So I don't know, that would be 60, 65, 70, something like that on the walls. And then you see them today and my impression was always the same. Like, that's a really nice picture, but there's so much more beauty that I see now. Did you have that experience yourself?
I think I absolutely understand your point about that. And I think I see sometimes, and depending on the conversation, sometimes conversation will lead to the idea of seeing themselves in the past. But I love people for where they are in their present. And because that's who I'm taking a picture of, is the person that's in front of me. And so finding and seeing that beauty that's there and seeing the passion that's there right now. I think we all kind of see ourselves, we see pictures of ourselves in the past and can see different things of ourselves, but I always appreciate people where they are. And I think that's the beauty of the story, and that's the story we're trying to tell, is that appreciation of self in the present moment.
Yeah.
Oh, just keep doing it, Heidi.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing such fine creative work, fine artistic work, and fine activist work, and you're just, I don't want to get bombastic about this, but we're all aging, we're all getting there. So you're helping humanity in their journey. So thank you very much.
Yeah, before we wrap up, please tell us, how can people find out more about your work, and how can they hire you to do their own project, say at their community?
You can see my work on my website. It's The Passions Project, and that's passions with an S, because we got to think of all the many passions that are out there. So thepassionsproject.com, and also on Instagram at thepassionsproject.com. I love working with, resident-centered communities that are really looking to tell their story, especially a story that's, being changed because of COVID. Like, we need to make sure that people are understanding that retirement communities are still amazing places for people to be and to, be a part of, and that there's amazing people that live there. So, and continuing to tell that story of that family of community. And so you can also give me a call. My number's right on my website, but I am based in Colorado and also in Wisconsin, but I've done these projects all over the country, and including Leading Age National has a permanent installation of the Passions Project at its headquarters in Washington, D.C. Over 90 photos they did. They had commissioned to be their public art there. So it's quite a display, and it's quite an honor to be seen and for the work to be seen, because that's the most important thing, is for people to understand and appreciate older adults, but living, and the beauty of living your passion.
You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.